Hey guys, so I want to talk about today life after MGTOW. So, MGTOW was a large part of my life for almost 10 years, or maybe a little bit more than 10 years actually. First discovered MGTOW probably back in 2009 and 2008, 2009. Back then, MGTOW was very, very different. MGTOW was not even called MGTOW. I became part of the online YouTube community, and there were guys like Stardust and Barbarossa, and prior to that, there was also another guy named Angry Harry. And I often like to think that the name I used to use, Angry MGTOW, was kind of like a spiritual successor to him once I learned more about him. But for me, life after MGTOW has been it's been kind of weird. So I found MGTOW when I was probably at the lowest point in my life. My grandmother had passed away, and the girl that I liked, she basically, I can't even say she did not reciprocate it because she was the one who was constantly coming to me, but she had a relationship with another guy, and basically, this is how crazy the story gets. She kept on coming on to me over and over and over, and finally, when I reciprocated it, her boyfriend worked at the same company that I did, that we did. And he actually went to the general manager of the company and told him that I tried to steal his girlfriend. And after that happened, I was basically put in a position where I would not be promoted in the company, and I was constantly being punished for the situation. And it was pretty unbelievable. But the truth is that I persevered through it and I kept on working through it. And years later, I then found myself in university again, working on a master's. And I was trying to be the best version of myself. I was still studying or trying to follow a lot of the things I had learned from my days with PUA, and it was really hard. I ended up homeless for about 8 months, and I worked on my master's degree for about 8 months while homeless, doing my thesis for 8 months until I finished it. The day I presented my thesis, I defended it, was the day I moved into a new place finally, and then I had to struggle to go to my graduation because one of my professors, who I was really good friends with, he basically demanded it. And I ultimately ended up doing it. But it was hard. And after all of those experiences, it made me just want to give up on relationships because I had been hurt a lot by different people. But as I got older, I began to realize that it's not a one sided thing. It's not a male or a female thing, it's a person thing. In life, there are going to be people who hurt you. And they can be men or they can be women. You can often notice that sometimes when women hurt you, there's often a guy right behind them that's facilitating it. And I noticed that pattern where more often than not, there were always these guys who were the ones pushing these things and are intervening. And I could no longer keep that inside of me. I could no longer be held down by that. Then years ago, maybe around 5, 6 years ago, I got diagnosed with cancer. And I remember the experience because it was so crazy where I had just survived homelessness and I had been trying to recover physically from it because I had a lot of physical issues after physical ailments. I had a severe injury on my foot that I had sustained during my time being homeless. My health had taken a serious nosedive, and then I get diagnosed with cancer. And it's funny because like I've heard different doctors on here say, well, no, it wasn't that. The test had to be wrong. But the thing is that they repeated the test multiple times, and every time they repeated the test, it came back positive for cancer. And I had started going through some serious problems during that period of time where I was having lots and lots of pain. I remember telling people on YouTube that specifically the MGTOW community that I got diagnosed with bladder cancer. And I remember one comment saying that no such thing as bladder cancer exists. And that was like a point for me where it hurt a lot. There was Sandman who basically came out and said that I had 400 videos on my channel because I decided to remove my channel and take time off to go and heal. And those videos could have helped men. And it was interesting because I didn't get any empathy from the community. I got a lot of anger, a lot of vitriol when I decided to leave. And it just illustrated to me just how much people care about you. Because I had spent so much time in this community, building the community, and I had dedicated much of my life to that community. I had basically said, forget about college, forget about everything else. I'm going to focus on MGTOW. And I did that. But the truth of the matter is that I realize now, looking back, that it was absolutely not worth it for me. The philosophy of going your own way is a beautiful philosophy, but it ended up getting taken and distorted and misconstrued by a lot of different people, who basically turned it into something that was more associated with the darker communities on the web than anything else. What MGTOW was to me was it was about men taking self-ownership for themselves. It had nothing to do with separating ourselves from anyone else. It was just about us focusing on ourselves, being the best version of ourselves, improving ourselves. And then I saw that it was going downhill. There were also a lot of guys who were upset that I had friendships with various women. For example, I had a friendship with Marnie Kinnery, who is a very amazing person and a very well-known dating coach. And I started following Marnie Kinnery's teachings like maybe over a decade ago. And back then, when the PUA community was first manifesting, I'll tell you right now, there were not a lot of people around. It was all on forums, and she was maybe the only woman in that space. And years later, when I finally got to speak to her and got to know her, she was just really awesome. And I've said this before that she was like a sister, a big sister to me, almost family. And a lot of people did not like that. When I announced that I was going to drop the label in 2017 or 8, I don't remember what year it was. Was it 18 or 19? No, maybe it was 18, 2018, somewhere around there. It was really hard for me to do that because at that point, I was pretty much on top. Everyone knew who I was. I was pretty popular. I was essentially the face of MGTOW. And I knew a lot of the top content creators, like people like Elliot Hulse. I had him on my channel. I knew people like Blair White, Lauren Southern. I wouldn't say that we were frenemies, but we were, but we knew each other. I met a lot of new content creators who ultimately became extremely large on YouTube as well. For me, however, things started to just really taper down because I started seeing that MGTOW started to change, and it became more angry, and it transitioned away from the concept of MGTOW 2.0, which was basically not marrying or not having children, and it became MGTOW 3.0, which was basically men separating themselves socially, financially, and economically from women and the state, basically pulling their resources away from society, from women, and basically separating themselves entirely. And I didn't think that that was something that resonated with me. Especially when I looked at life, I found that there were times when there were women who would help me much more than men would. And I realized that it was something I didn't want to be a part of because I didn't want that inside of me. Because you carry that around with you for so long, you carry that anger around with you for so long, it eventually turns into something else. And I was tired of it because I started to really not like myself as a result of that. And it became harder and harder to live with myself because the more I directed that anger towards others who never hurt me, the more I hurt myself. And when I dropped the label, I spoke out against what was becoming radicalism in the community. And a lot of people came after me. These guys were opportunists because they saw who I was and they basically wanted that. And you had guys who were saying they put me out of the community, but the truth is that I just left. And I mostly focused on cryptocurrency and building my crypto projects and being a better version of myself and improving my own life. And I realized that's something I need to work more on these days. It's so funny because once upon a time, MGTOW was about self-improvement and it just completely lost its way. And that's something that stayed with me. But the philosophy of going your own way is something I continue to live by, which is basically self-ownership, focusing on developing relationships, good relationships with others, and deciding for yourself how you want to live your life. Not blaming others, men or women, for your own failures, and realizing that the things that happen to you in life, you can't always control them. In life, a lot of the things that happen to you are going to be outside of your control, but the only thing you can control is how you respond to those things that happen to you. And it's so funny because back then you had a lot of guys who were very handsome, a lot of guys with a lot of money, and then you had a group of men who were jealous, who were hurt, who were, just who were basically willing to go to extreme lengths to silence people that came out with this extremely different and toxic message that I didn't want to be a part of. The original idea behind MGTOW started in the early 2000s. And what I heard from from one guy specifically who was around back then, the origin of MGTOW was basically two guys discussing how society was changing and how men and women were becoming divided. And they said that we need to work, what do we do? Things are becoming more radical. And someone said, well, let's call this thing MGTOW. And they wrote it on a napkin. I think they were having lunch or something. And then the title basically spread across the internet and different groups picked it up. And numerous MGTOW subcultures began to form. And then the YouTube community began to form. And that's where I basically entered. And I became a very well-known content creator. But the truth is that I still believe in the concept of going your own way. And I think that it's something that both men and women can benefit from. The idea that by taking ownership of your own life and choosing how you want to respond to the problems that you have in your life, that's the most empowering thing you can really do. And realizing that, the whole thing with Animal Farm, if we look back at Animal Farm, where it basically said 2 legs bad, 4 legs good, and then by the end of the book it said 4 legs good but 2 legs better, to paraphrase it. It just illustrates that you end up becoming the thing that you were so adamant about fighting, and then the people who you brought along with you, they end up basically suffering as a result because of that radicalism. So you end up sitting on the top of the spear and everyone else is on the bottom. And it's so funny because I got blamed saying that all these men that gave me donations, on my live streams or for making videos, somehow I was not entitled to that. And that was just plain out jealousy from a lot of these guys. Because the truth is that they have nothing else in their lives. They have nothing else, and as a result of that, they wanted to spread as much despair as they possibly could. I think that the concept of going your own way is important today, and no one can take that away from me, and no one can take that away from anyone else. So I think a lot of us, men and women, need to begin working towards healing and resolving the issues that we had with past people who hurt us, those who wronged us. And it's learning to forgive them. It's about not forgiving them for what they did, but forgiving yourself, because those things you can never truly forgive. You can never really excuse them. You can't look back at them and ever justify them and say that, well, now you're a better person because of them, or rather, they were justified to happen. But you can take something from it and you can find meaning from it. I forget the author's name, but there's a book I think called Man's Search for Meaning, and it was written by a doctor who's a psychologist, I believe, who has survived through World War II and being in the camps, and it was all about perspective. And I think that what we're going through today as a world, we can take a lot from the concept of going your own way. Turning off the television, stop watching CNN, blocking videos on YouTube and and avoiding other platforms that continuously remind you of just how misery there is in the world. Instead, focusing on positivity and what you can do. That is truly the most amazing thing, and that's the most important thing that you can really do for yourself and others around you. So those are my personal thoughts on that. And I think more people can benefit from this idea of taking self-ownership, of going your own way on your own terms. Going your own way is something for men and women. The idea that you're going to find love with an inanimate object is ridiculous. There are so many men that have suffered as a result of feminism and social justice and so much other. And it's funny because these things don't help anyone. They only work to divide us. If we look at the world that we're entering in right now, we're all being humbled. We are all being humbled. And it's amazing because you have those men that are sitting on their high horses and they're suffering. And the irony is that misery loves company. But you know what? I'm tired of being miserable. And I'm also not a coward. I'm tired of being censored because these guys have been trying to stop me from talking for years, discussing going your own way, even mentioning the label MGTOW, because they're afraid of who I am and what I said and what I did. And it's funny because I told men years ago that it's time to drop this label and instead get your life together, because the world was going to change. I talked about the economy taking a massive nosedive. I called it the great collapse of 2020. Guys, I don't know if some people remember that. The great collapse of 2020. A lot of people didn't listen to that, but now I bet they are listening. So that's my thoughts, and I wanted to share those with you. I wanted you guys to hear that from me, and I wanted you to know about that. And I want to create this new. I want to bring more people to this, the concept of going your own way, taking accountability for your life and living your life on your own terms, not blaming others for your shortcomings, and understanding that you can't control what happens to you in life, but you control how you respond to it. Learning that at the end of the day, it's not about what a person looks like. It's not about the color of a person's skin. It's not about their gender. It's about what they have inside. It's about their heart. And those are the things that you really need to focus on when you're deciding whether or not you want someone in your life. And when people hurt you, the best thing to do, what I learned from my therapist pretty recently, she said it, is you put them out and you keep them out forever. And that's it. Go through your phone and delete those numbers of your ex-girlfriends who hurt you or your ex-boyfriends who hurt you. Realize that your best friend can be a woman, and not every woman is going to hurt you, and not every man is going to hurt you. So if you've been hurt by men, realize that not every man is like this. In fact, The people who often hurt others, the men who hurt women and the women who hurt men, these are people who often have these characteristics, these specific traits. For example, they're often drawn to good people, people with kind hearts, and they take advantage of you. There's this notion that you're attracting the wrong people, but the truth is that narcissists are attracted to good people. Because think about it, people who have seen the despair of the world, or people who've gone through a lot of these things, they don't tend to be as open to others. But people with good hearts often end up falling into toxic relationships because these types of people, narcissists, are drawn to them because they see it as a weakness. Because you don't judge a person by their cover, you judge them based on their character, and you give people the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes it happens to you so many times that you develop maybe a mild form of PTSD, reliving the trauma of those past experiences. And I'll quote something that Roma Army said, which is so true, that if you don't sort your stuff out, then you will end up bleeding all over those who never cut you. And it's something we all need to think about, especially what's happening right now. Because the idea of saying that you're going to be alone for the rest of your life as though it's some kind of badge of honor, like you win a prize, you don't. You really don't. When you get older and you're lonely and you want someone to be there for you, you're going to look back and you're going to think about it. Okay? You're going to want someone to comfort you. You're going to want someone to talk to you. When I went through my cancer diagnosis, it humbled me, because I imagined myself laying in a bed, seeing the end of my life, just basically not even wanting the nurses around. And that's a horrible way to die. And what a waste of a life that would be. So I want to encourage everyone to find happiness, find joy, find something, find meaning. Look for meaning in your life. Find the thing that you're passionate about, and take that and go your own way, and work towards a better tomorrow. Find hope, because hope is so important. I know so many guys right now are in so much pain. They're struggling, but at the end of the day, the depths of despair don't help anyone. Making fun of women or men, or making fun of men, or chuckling about each other's despair doesn't get us anywhere. It only makes our lives worse, and we basically, what we project is reflected back at us, and what we project, that's also what's inside of us. So we internalize what we say, because words are powerful. The things that come out of our mouths shape our realities of the world. So we have to change the things that we say. We have to present a more positive outlook. We have to present a more unified outlook, because we are all a part of the collective consciousness. We are all interconnected. We are all a part of God. We all make up God. Okay, we are all a part of that. But if we choose to go down the path of darkness and allow that darkness to consume us, then we'll be forever lost in it and disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from each other, and eternally lost in that darkness. And many people seem to think that it's a game, but it's not. And you don't have all the time in the world. You really don't. If you're suffering right now, if you're in pain, if you're in misery, I want you to think about this message carefully, because it's not going to end. There's no race to the end of your life being single, or race to the end of your life being angry at a specific group of people, because that's how it starts. And then it starts spreading, and it infects your entire life. So when you run into people who hurt you, what you have to do is simply put them out of your life. Okay? Sometimes it's better to just walk away, go your own way, and live your life to the best of your ability. In life, you're always going to have challenges in life, but it's about how you respond to those challenges. And finding good people, even a single good person, can change things, can help to really turn things around. That's the message I wanted to share with you guys. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to start putting out more videos talking about going your own way, because I want to encourage everyone to do this, because that's what's in my heart right now. I've stopped doing it for years because so many people attacked me. The MGTOWs just kept coming at me, but no more. Going your own way is a concept for everyone, both men, women, everyone. And it's about taking self ownership. It's about living the life that you choose to live, working towards finding meaning and purpose in your life. And that's really it. Not allowing society to control your views, but instead going your own way on your own terms. That could be by yourself, that could be with a man or with a woman, that could be with a family, that could be with friends, but that's on your terms, and that's for each individual to decide. I remember years ago when I was angry, and I said to this guy, how can you call yourself a MGTOW and you're married? And he said something so profound to me. He said, who are you to tell another man how to go his own way? I want to leave you with that. Let me know what you think about this. I know that this video is going to get a ton of dislikes if anyone actually sees it, but I wanted to share it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Much love. And just remember that all roads lead to going your own way. And cheers.